Now is former Maryland congressional candidate Kimberley Klacik, also with us former Florida congressional candidate and Air Force veteran Paulina Luna, and with us former Illinois congressional candidate Catalina, Lauf. Great to see you all. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Kim, let's go to you first on this. Joe Biden continues to preach about uniting the country, but how can that happen without any real evidence? At this point, it's impossible to gather, the demographics on everyone in that crowd. No real evidence to support what he was saying yesterday. Come out and make these accusations.
You know, it's so dishonest and it's really reckless, in my opinion. Thanks for having me again, John. Honestly, when I read, the tweet, when I heard what he said, his remarks they're basically divisive. He wants to get people emotional and fueled up and continue this divide. He talked about he wanted to heal the country. He wanted unity. But when you sit there and say something like, if they were black or brown, they would have been treated differently. Like you said, a white woman unfortunately lost her life being shot by police there. And a Capitol police officer, as we found out, also lost his life. Yeah. And he was white. And so it doesn't matter about race. What happened at the Capitol was awful. I think everyone I know has condemned it. But again, it had nothing to do with race. My entire campaign staff was down at the rally that morning, and most of my staff is black, so, it's reckless. But of course, this is what the left does.
And that's what's so dangerous about this, because if you just look at the video or you just make these instant accusations, Paulina, you can have black supporters that actually support President Trump. Doesn't mean they're Black Lives Matter supporters. But so much of this is the rush to assign blame here before we actually understand what happened.
Of course, we saw the last 4 years, many Democrats, to include Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, were making calls for violence. We're saying that they should resist, and essentially we're fueling organizations that are racially divisive, like BLM. And so when someone actually got killed, they're ignoring that. The woman that was killed, her name was Ashley Babbitt. She was an Air Force veteran. She had 4 combat deployments. She was in security forces. She was a mother. She was a wife, and she was an honorably discharged veteran. And they're not talking about that. The fact is that Joe Biden has done nothing, especially to bring the country together. If he is president-elect moving forward, then he needs to be making sure that people are recognized on both sides, to include Ashley Babbitt, and turning down organizations like BLM that are racially divisive.
Right. And we can have the conversation about what she was doing there, why she was trying to climb that in a second. But again, that will come later because the investigation is ongoing. And no matter how much we in the media want this stuff to have this information instantly, it doesn't work like that. Now, Catalina, let's also talk about the fact that the media here has been up on their high horse, talking about holding President Trump accountable, and anyone who's ever been associated with President Trump accountable for what happened yesterday. But for over the last year, they've also been justifying the billions of dollars of damage that we saw happen over the summer. And here's just a small example of that.
I argue to you tonight, all punches are not equal morally.
It says it right in the name, Antifa, anti-fascism, which is what they were there fighting. Listen, there's, no organization is perfect. There was some violence.
Any reasonable person would say we shouldn't be destroying other people's property, but these are not reasonable times.
But thank goodness for the looters, man.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I'll show you where. If you read anything about Mahatma Gandhi or Dr. Martin Luther King, people who actually changed things, it was about nonviolent civil disobedience. Isn't that right, Catalina?
The media has turned into Pravda, which is the Russian propaganda machine that happened in history. What's very tough about all this is they talk about morals and principle, but when you are inconsistent with how you view a situation, violence is always violence. There's no good and there's no bad violence. There's always violence.
Right.
And to be going back and forth on this, look, I saw a lot of elected officials on the far left immediately calling these people domestic terrorists. And if that's the word that they choose to use, then why don't they choose to use that when a terrorist like General Soleimani is killed? They're very inconsistent, and that is not principled and it's not moral.
And again, the problem is, I think, too, is so many on the left and even sometimes to the right, they only talk to the folks that are watching TV, not the rest of America. There's so much of America that's not represented here. And we're trying to pick up some of those folks. But we got about a minute left. I want to ask you all this question, too, because, based on what we've seen this week and all these attacks on politicians, it's a hard job. And I like to hold politicians accountable. What would make you guys want to do this? Kim, starting with you, and we'll go around in the same order.
Yeah, so I did it because I wanted to represent we the people. We have a lot of politicians on Capitol Hill, and they're very good at lying to the people. They're very good at pushing this narrative and agenda. But I just wanted to represent the people. We're really hurt by the pandemic. People wanted their stimulus money, and people want to be able to have their freedoms and rights. Going forward.
All right, Anna Paulina, next to you.
When people, especially what's happening right now, don't stand up for what's right, they get away, and essentially the left will get away with essentially ruining our country. So we have to take a stand, whether or not you're qualified for the position or not. We have to fight, and this is our version of fighting.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. We've heard a lot about fighting, but, most sensible people know we don't mean punching and violence. It's, the rhetorical sense of the word fight. Catalina, last to you.
I think we all have our own story and our own reasons for being here. And I think primarily, I'm a small town girl. My mother came here legally from Latin America. My father's a small business owner. And to see what's happening right now, the attack on free enterprise, the attack on the American dream that has made all of our lives possible, it does force everyday Americans now to step up. Nobody on this screen is here because of, some sort of personal gain. It's all because we believe in the people. We want to accurately represent the people in the districts that we ran in, and we're fiercely committed to doing that even now beyond the congressional campaigns.
That's right. There's no fault in losing one race. The fight continues. As we said, no physical fighting, just the rhetorical sense of the word. Great to see you all. Kim, Anna, Catalina, we'll see you all soon.